afternoon, everyone. This is Austin,
This is Greg.
and today we have special guest Tinny on Life, Love, and the Pursuit of FI on our podcast today. Hey, Tinny, how are you doing?
Hey, thanks. Doing very well. Thank you so much for having me on. Been looking forward to getting on the show, so really happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Absolutely. So, Tinny, let's get into talking about you. What's your background? It's like,
Yeah, most definitely. So, my background, my name is Tinny Colin. I am 25 years old. I am born in Congo, in the city of Kinshasa, which is in Africa, Central Africa. Um, Lived in Congo for about 8 years. When I was 8 years old, moved to Belgium and with my family for educational purposes. Moved to Belgium, lived there for 4 years. It was a big culture shock at the time, but after living in Belgium for 4 years, got adjusted to the culture. We moved to the States. So at the age of 12, I came to the States in a small state up in Vermont. Not sure if many of you are aware that that state even existed, but up in Vermont, it's very cold up there. There's not much to do other than skiing and snowboarding, which I don't really do. But lived there for until I was about 22, 23. Did the whole college, middle school, high school, college up in Vermont, and decided that I wanted some warmer climates, and then I came to Charlotte, and I've been here for about 2.5 years now. So that's high level, sort of my geographical background of where I've lived and where I've migrated to over the years.
okay, nice. So let's talk about your commercial real estate. How did you get into commercial real estate?
Yeah, very good question. So, after so I started my journey 2 years ago, right? While going to school and working a part-time job, I wholesaled a handful of deals. It was all virtual at the time that I was living up in Vermont. And I guess let me take a step back. Before starting that, so I had graduated from my undergrad in Vermont, and I was really lost about my next steps. Right, I really didn't know what I wanted to do after college. I was sort of the kid that sort of just went through the motions at school. Right, I would go to class, pass the class. I wouldn't say that I got good grades, but I would pass. Right, and then so I did that. Graduated and really didn't know what I wanted to do, and so the next logical step was to get my master's degree. So I enrolled in an online program, and while going through my online program, I was, doing odd jobs here and there. And at the time, my older brother introduced me to a little-known book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, um, and then it was really the mindset shift that I needed to learn more about real estate and learn more about personal finance. And that's when it really started. So 2.5 years ago. Um, and so while going to school and working a part-time job, I was able to um, wholesale a handful of deals virtually here in the Carolinas with the help of my older brother, which at the time, he was also wholesaling real estate in Charlotte. And Austin and Greg, should I mention what wholesaling is at all for your audience?
Yes. For those who don't know
Okay,
what wholesaling is.
perfect. Yeah. So wholesaling real estate is a very simple concept. What it is you find an undervalued, uh, undervalued asset property. You get it under contract. What getting something under contract essentially means is it's black ink on white paper, right? So it's a purchase and sales agreement that says that me as the buyer will buy the property at a specific price, and the way that you should position yourself as somebody who's looking to wholesale it, you should buy at a discounted price. Once you have a signature from both you as the prospective buyer and the signature of the seller, you take that contract and you assign it to an investor that's going to buy it, fix it up, and then bring it back up to its market value. And the difference that you have the property on the contract for, and the difference between what the end buyer buys it for, you make the spread, right? So you get a property on a contract for $50,000, you assign it for $100,000, you make $50,000 spread. So that's very high level, and that's what I did, right? I was doing that here in the Carolinas. Luckily, with the help of my older brother, we closed a few deals together, and the help of a good friend of mine, who at the time was living in Florida. We closed a handful of deals, and that's how I got started learning about systems and processes in real estate. That is my start right there. Okay. And I'll go into more details as we go more into the questions.
So going from wholesaling, did you go into actually like flipping properties or like house hacking or anything of that nature before going into commercial?
Yeah, very good question. So after, my goal was always to own real estate. I think that's the goal for quite a bit of people, is to actually have ownership in the real estate, right? So after wholesaling, while wholesaling, the plan was always to use the capital needed to buy my first property. So at the time, I was making $35,000 a year, W-2, before taxes, and I was able to qualify for and purchase a standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a C-class neighborhood in Gastonia, North Carolina. If you're not familiar with Gastonia, it's transitioning, but at the time when I bought the property, it wasn't in the best neighborhood. But I did what I could with what I had. So I wanted to house hack, which is I would live in one bedroom and rent out the other. And although I was, although it was enough to cover the mortgage, it wasn't enough to cash flow, right? So what I did is I moved out of one of my bedrooms, rented it out, and I used the space available in the mudroom where the washer and dryer were, and slept there for a year. So I slept in the laundry room for about a year and rented out the 3rd bedroom. Saved up enough money to buy my second house in Charlotte. Closed on it last year in October. And now I sleep in an actual bedroom, so that's good. As you can see, I'm in my bedroom right now. Moved out of the Gastonia house and converted the laundry room where I was sleeping at the time into a bedroom. So now that house is actually a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and I'm still renting out each room. And realized that scaling single family was a nightmare just because of, it's such a, it's doable, but it takes some time to scale, a single family portfolio. And I made a transition about 4 months ago to get into commercial residential real estate.
Nice. So how hard is it to get into commercial real estate? how is the barrier to entry different than residential?
That's a very good question. The barrier to entry, I would say, is definitely more, it's different than single family homes because of the fact that it tends to be more expensive, right? So there's a lot more zeros in purchase prices usually, and it just requires a different strategy. So oftentimes in single family homes, you you can do it by yourself, or just very few team members, right? In commercial real estate and multifamily residential, it takes a team to accomplish the goal of acquisition. So although not difficult, it just takes a different strategy. So there's a lot more networking involved. There's a lot more team members involved, right? So you have to have the right pieces in place in order to acquire um, the desired property. And that's really something that I've been learning is, you can't do it by yourself in commercial. You really got to have a team. And although it's not challenging, it definitely takes a different approach. And it's and once you just understand that, you start moving accordingly in order to buy the building that you want.
Now, when you were when you converted the extra bedroom into your old house, how hard was that process, and what did that look like for you to be able to convert an extra bedroom from the laundry room?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Austin. At the time when I did it, I was really that was my first ever construction project. So I was super scared going into it first, right? Like, what if I mess something up? What if, you know, what if I'm not able to convert it and I only find out halfway through everything's already been demolished? So it was a very, I definitely took a leap there. But I did research on what I needed to have in place in order to even consider the layout, like the difference, the change of layout that I would need. And it really started with me reaching out to a general contractor. So that's the first thing that I did. I reached out to a general contractor, and to a few really. I reached out to 4 general contractors, and I had them walk the property, and I told them what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was, because the washer and dryer were where I was sleeping, that needed to be the main thing, right? Where do I put these washers and dryers now that is going to be a bedroom? And so there was a cabinet in the kitchen that I could demolish and then put stackable washers and dryers there. And once that was figured out, okay, the washer and dryer can go there, it was much easier to then convert that space into a bedroom. And I had different contractors give me the price of how much that would cost, and I ended up going with the price in the middle, right? So I didn't go with the highest bid, I didn't go with the lowest bid. I went with the one that I thought was fair, and I checked the contractor's references, and I made sure that they had done good work in the past. And once I vetted the contractor out, I was then able to come up with a draw request, right? So how often would the contractor need and want to get paid based off of how much work they would accomplish, right? So it would be in stages. First, they would do the plumbing. Well, first it was demo, then it was the washer and dryer, which involved plumbing, and then it would be the bedroom conversions, right? The flooring, closets, and everything. So it was in 3 to 4 stages, and then once that was established, then then it was much easier to give that first payments, in order to get the work started.
Okay. What's your ultimate goal with your real estate portfolio? You want to get into owning some like mixed use office space, a sky rise or two?
Absolutely. Hopefully, with you guys, yeah, we can start owning half of Charlotte together, including the Bank of America building, which I really want to buy at some point. Anyways, um, yeah. So the goal eventually for me would be to own triple net assets. I want to own triple net leases because I see that as the end all be all to my hopefully glorious real estate career, right? So right now I am just getting into multifamily residential, and I'm taking steps at a time with that, and then from there I see myself going into self storage,
Mm.
and then from there I want to park in larger um, larger commercial assets to where I can have safe, consistent returns, as they call it, mailbox money. So I see myself owning larger commercial assets. That can be larger office space. That can be larger commercial residential multifamilies, like the one that you see here in Charlotte, right? In those A plus class neighborhoods, where the returns aren't greatest, but it's also, you know, not the worst. But the thing is, it's just very stable. And so, yeah, that's where I see myself going. Office space, larger commercial, residential, and the how do you call the is it like plazas? The
Yeah, like a
like
strip mall.
where they have, yes, exactly, strip malls.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. And so, for those who don't know, what is a triple net lease?
Good question. A triple net lease is an asset in which you have the tenants. So it's similar to a landlord-tenant relationship, except now your tenants are large corporations like your Walgreens, your dollar store. It can even be a Champs, right? Those um, larger corporations that want to rent space to run their businesses, and oftentimes you sign a standard lease with them, and within that lease, they are in charge of you know sometimes they're in charge of the maintenance of the property, sometimes even their own utilities, right? So they're in charge of most of the maintenance of the property, and then they pay you a specific rental amount. Um, and then as the landlord, you have to take care of some aspects of maintenance, but significantly less than you would in the residential space where you're in charge of everything, right? So in this case, the tenant is actually in charge of most, if not all, of the upkeep of the property, and then you end up just being super hands off and getting your consistent return metrics.
Nice.
So, do you currently, what is your way that you fund most of your projects going on?
Yeah, good question. So right now, I am under contract for a 6-unit apartment complex. Now, granted, this is my first small multi-family property, so I'm very excited about it. And I can tell you more, how I got it under contract. So right now and moving forward, I plan on structuring my deals in 2 ways, right? So I'll either have a joint venture or a syndication, right? And I'll go into detail about, what both are. A joint venture is essentially you partnering. It will be me partnering with 1, 2, maybe 3 other investors, and we would put in equal amounts of capital, in order to participate in equal amounts of upside in the deal, right? So we would share the equity of the property, right? If it appreciates, we would get equal amounts. We would get equal amounts of rental income, and when we sell, we would get equal shares of the proceeds. So that's generally how a joint venture is set up. Now, you can get more complicated in that structure where somebody would get the preferred you know equity splits, so to say, right? But generally speaking, it's a 50-50 sort of sort of partnership, and that's how I plan on acquiring my smaller multifamily portfolio. Now, when you start getting into the larger acquisitions, like the ones that we're talking about, let's say when I buy the Bank of America building or the one next door, I'll do a syndication. A syndication is structured in a GP, general partnership, limited partnership format, to where the general partner is the team in charge of the deal. So they operate the deal on a daily basis. They're in charge of, all of the toilets that would break and all of the residents that would live at the property. They manage the property, drive the vision forward, right? Making sure that it performs well. But that's the GP. And on the LP side, those are the individuals that come in as limited partners. So most of the time, it's a large group of individuals that lend money on the asset secured by the property, right? And they have a very safe preferred return. So because they lend money for the purchase of the property, they get preferred returns. Market standards is 8%. So the first 8% return that this property would generate is what the limited partners would have. And then from there, anything after that, then the returns would go to the GPs. And then after that, right, it would maybe be 50-50 from here on out. Everything is structured in different stages based off of the expected returns, right? So the way that's good for an investor like myself is I can leverage capital, more specifically human capital, in order to acquire those larger assets, right? So a JV and syndication are my go-to that I see in acquiring my real estate deals. As of right now, though, strictly a joint venture partnership, but I will be syndicating very soon as well.
Now, are you planning on investing in other markets besides Charlotte, or are you wanting to just stay within what you know?
I definitely want to invest in other markets outside of the Carolinas. As a matter of fact, Austin, recently I've been looking into investing more in the Midwest because I hear that it's a great cash flowing market. So I'm looking at states like Indiana, for example. That's a great market for me based off of the returns that I can anticipate, right? I can put my money to work in much better ways than I would in a market like North Carolina, where the returns can be good, but not as much as it would be in a state like Indiana. So yeah, I've been looking at states in the Midwest. I would love to invest in California. I heard that they have a really good cheap market there as well. No, not for California. Yeah, so the Midwest is my next target right now.
I'm absolutely looking at properties in Kansas as well, specific parts of Kansas. So
nice.
If I ever want to come to Michigan, there's plenty of houses for sale around here.
Is there? I've never looked into Michigan, actually. I heard Detroit is really, really growing now at a fast pace. But I haven't looked into Michigan itself as a state to invest in. Yeah. Austin, You said
Yeah.
Kansas?
Yeah.
What's the attraction there?
I spent 4 years there, so I kind of know about the market already. I know a college town that I'm thinking of. We can talk about it off camera because I don't want other investors who are listening to this to know my plans. However, multifamily, where I'm looking at, is considerably cheaper than in the current market.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's keep the secret sauce secret.
Yeah, you gotta subscribe to our podcast in order to get the good stuff.
Yes. There's a step up.
Yeah, we'll start a platinum package and give away where we're investing to next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta create a Patreon.
Yeah. Yeah, so the attraction there is that I know the market already. Not as well as I could. I've been out of Kansas for a while now, but while I was there, I know what it has to offer, and I like it due to the fact there's two main groups that I'm targeting that aren't going to go away anytime soon, and I'm not going to specifically state again where, but we can talk about it off camera later.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So,
Yeah, and I bet the cash flow there is pretty good too, especially at scale.
yeah, absolutely. As long as you structure the deal right, I'm sure you can make it all work well.
Yeah, for sure.
So, do you have any advice for anyone looking to get started in real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say honestly, dive right in, jump right in. More specifically, jump right in with intentions and jump right in with enough research. And I'll go into more detail as to what I mean. So, do just enough research to know where you want to go into. Don't do more research than you need to, right? Don't get analysis paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
Do just enough research to know how you want to start investing. For me, it was wholesaling, right? Now, if you want to go directly into house hacking, that's great. Go directly into house hacking. But again, do just enough research to know how you want to start and then figure it out from there, right? The pieces will always fall into place, right? If you do the work, right? Now, jump in also with the intent and knowledge to understand that real estate is simple, but it's not easy, right? It's very you can understand the way real estate investing as a concept works, but putting it into place is a whole nother thing, right? So that's why a lot of people say that real estate investing is simple, but it's not easy, right? So have the right, have the right research going in, right? Jump in. Don't be afraid to take the leap, right? And then two, understand that it's going to take time. Again, it's simple but not easy. But something that they don't say is, well, it's simple, it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it, right? It's a long-term game, right? So you have to be patient. You have to enjoy the process. And then if you have all three of these metrics, you'll be very, very successful, and you'll be able to provide yourself with the life that you want, and then also provide, your closest, your closest ones with the life that they can also deserve.
So besides real estate, do you do any retirement investing, as in was it traditional fire path like the stock market, or do you just focus 100% into real estate?
Absolutely. So I am a huge advocate of, putting my money into a Roth IRA every month. I focus on that religiously. I make sure that I have $500 to $1,000 a month going into my Roth IRA, and to me, I see that as a sure thing down the line, right? To at least get to that 1 million. Another thing is I tend to be very intentional about how I spend my money. Now, I value experiences, but I don't value, you know, spending my money on just whatever, right? So I'm very meticulous and very careful about how I spend my money. I track every single one of my expenses, and I also make sure that that I save, right? I think the big component of financial independence is just saving, right? I save my active income and I put it all into passive assets. And that's a really, really big focus of mine, especially the past couple years, where I have a long-term plan of retiring before I'm 30. Well, it's not really a long-term plan. I guess it's more short-term than anything else, but I will be retired by 30.
It's fantastic.
Great.
Well, Tinny, again, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, guys, for inviting me on, and I really love what you guys are doing. I think it's great exposure to financial independence. It's great exposure to just being aware of the different paths to achieving life, love, and the pursuit of financial independence. So thanks again for having me.
Of course. And like Tinny said, this has been Life, Love, and the Pursuit of FI with your host, Austin Culp.
And Greg Gaskin.
And we hope you guys have a good rest of your night.